Hey there, welcome to School of Emo, the podcast where we dive into the world of emo, pop punk, and everything in between. If you've ever found yourself in your car screaming the lyrics to Taking Back Sunday, wearing way too much eyeliner in the early 2000s, adding a buckle or a chain to every outfit you've put on, you are in the right place. I'm Erin Judge, and each week I will be your fellow student, guiding you through the music, the culture, and the history that shaped an entire generation of angsty teens. I am not the teacher of this school. I am a fellow student, here to learn alongside you and from you. Together, we will cover a lot of information that doesn't really matter, but will remind us of the days of stalking MySpace channels and getting lost in chat rooms. So connect your dial up, turn on your webcam, and let's go to School of Emo. Welcome back to School of Emo. Today we are going to talk about a band that I'm going to see this weekend, and that is A Day to Remember. Or I guess as you're listening to this, I've already seen them, but as I'm recording it, I'm going to see them very soon because Yellowcard is opening for them. If you tuned in to last week's episode, you know Yellowcard has been one of my favorite bands of all time. And so they are touring with A Day to Remember, and we decided to grab tickets, travel to Toronto to enjoy the show. And A Day to Remember was also one of the sets that we left partially through during when we were young last year and regretted because I forgot how many of their songs I loved until I was hearing them from afar. And we just planned our break before the evening sets during their set, and I regretted it. I wish that we had done that a little bit differently and fully enjoyed their set as much as possible because it was such a good set. It was really fun. And even though we could still hear the music, so we still did enjoy it, I just didn't realize how many of the songs that I knew and loved. So I'm really excited to learn more about the band, the history of where that music came from, dive into where they are right now, and prepare for the show to enjoy it even more. Because I have found, especially doing this podcast, that I love the music even more whenever I learn about some of the stories behind it and all of the ins and outs of the band and history and all those things, which I think makes this genre umbrella community, whatever we want to call this grouping of bands, so incredibly special. Now, the debate of is A Day to Remember emo or not, I think is interesting. I think probably towards the start they were, and then maybe just transitioned a bit more to the pop punk kind of alternative space. But you can make that decision for yourself. All right. So I want to start with where it all began in 2003. So a little later than some of the bands we've talked about before, in the quiet town of Ocala, Florida. That's how you pronounce it. So we have guitarist Tom Denny and drummer Bobby Scruggs wanted to make a band that was heavier than pop punk, but catchier than hardcore. So they kind of wanted to fill that space, which is the epitome of what was doing well and Warped Tour in the mid 2000s. So they were right on the brink of that. A lot of the bands were transitioning into that space that had been more of this emo core or even punk were starting to kind of soften and find their own path that still has a bit of that kind of emo punk energy while being a bit more palatable, being able to be sold, being on the radio, all of those things. So they wanted to fit into that space. They found their frontman, Jeremy McKinnon, who had been working at a sandwich shop by day and writing songs by night, ready for the right space to make those come to life. Jeremy later joked about this path to music and A Day to Remember in a later interview, saying, I never planned on being in a band. I just started writing songs because I needed a way to get things out, which is very emo, which fueled their earlier music. So a couple of years later, in 2005, they recorded their debut album, and their name was Treason, in Andrew Wade's bedroom. They didn't have a label. They weren't in a studio. They just had teenage energy and a lot of ambition and some songs to really build off of. It only took a few days to finish. And while it did sound pretty raw, which we love, right? A lot of that feels special because we don't hear that as much anymore. The songs like 1958 and Heartless already showed their knack for balancing aggression with melody. So they were already making their mark. Denny once said about that time in a later interview, the lyrics were all Jeremy's life experiences. They were real. That's why they connected, which is what emo core was, right? It's a little bit of aggression, it's energy behind really vulnerable lyrics that connect to the communities that they were written for. So after that album really made its way around the underground scene and this space, fans loved it. It did pretty well, and that led them to sign at Victory Records, which would springboard them into what was going on next. Now, Victory Records, we could get into that. Not necessarily the best, right? This is the kind of tale as old as time through all of these bands as we're learning about them. A lot of these labels at the time in this space did not necessarily set their artists up well, which led to the downfall of many of them, pun intended, but not necessarily for a day to remember, which is really nice. So in with Victory Records, they dropped For Those Who Have Heart in 2007, so a couple of years after the first album. And this was their real introduction into the scene because they had that power of the label behind them. It hit number 17 on the Billboard Heat Seekers chart. And then suddenly, A Day to Remember wasn't just a Florida local band. They were now Warped Tour regulars on MTV in the scene. The big shift for them, though, like that energy was building, but in 2009, they released Homesick. This was recorded while the band was constantly touring, and this was the record that really put them in the forefront and defined their sound and their space within the scene. It was vulnerable, like their lyrics and music before, deeply personal, but came from a place of experience, right? They had already kind of developed that fan base. They knew what was going to connect, and they put that into this album. So, this is where we got the opening chant of The Downfall of Us All, the emotional ballad, If It Means a Lot to You, which became the ultimate emo mixtape closer. Homesick turned A Day to Remember into scene heroes and gave them a legacy. This was the album that was played at When We Were Young just last year. It's still one of their top albums if you look at their streamings, some of their top songs. The album hit number 21 on the Billboard 200 and later went gold. And McKinnon mentioned in a later interview about the writing process. Homesick was literally about missing home. We were gone for like 10 months a year. The record was me dealing with all of that. So, very much connected to where they were at that time. A year later, they followed with What Separates Me From You, which gave us the single All I Want, one of my favorites, that crossed over into alternative radio. So, for a band that had defined themselves as the breakdowns that flattened a crowd, right? Very intense and a very specific style of song. With All I Want, they had a song that you could hear at the mall that was a little bit easier to listen to, that had a very radio friendly sound to it. It is one of my favorites, so that is the one that we are going to dive into the lyrics for. I'm always screaming my lungs out till my head starts spinning. Playing my songs is the way I cope with life. Won't keep my voice down. Know the words I speak are the thoughts I think out loud. I like to keep things honest. I'm a safe bet, like your life's staked on it, for real. I'd hate to keep you all wondering. I'm constant like the seasons. I will never be forgotten. Let's leave no words unspoken and save regrets for the broken. Will you even look back when you think of me? All I want is a place to call my own, to mend the hearts of everyone who feels alone. Whoa, you know, to keep your hopes up high and your head down low. Keep your hopes up high and your head down low. Still got something left to prove. It tends to keep things moving. While everyone around me says my last days are looming ahead. But just what the hell do they think they know? My head's above the water while they drown in the undertow. Let's leave no words unspoken and save regrets for the broken. Will you even look back when you think of me? All I want is a place to call my own, to mend the hearts of everyone who feels alone, to keep your hopes up high and your head down low. If you take it from me, live your life for yourself. Because when it's all said and done, you don't need anyone else. Come on. So let's get back to when everything seemed perfect. Not a worry in the world. Tell me, was it all worth it? I get what I want, so everyone's always judging me. Not afraid of anything. I've got the whole world in front of me. Like all bands during this time and in this scene, probably even outside of the scene, success did not come without battles. By 2011, A Day to Remember was locked in a massive lawsuit with Victory Records. Shocker. The band accused the label of withholding royalties and trying to trap them in their contract. It turned into years of fighting that was very public. Jeremy later said, "We were in this weird place where we didn't know if we could release music. We didn't even know if we were going to survive it as a band." Despite that, they did push forward and self release their next album, Common Courtesy, in 2013. It was both a middle finger to the label and a love letter to their fans, kind of like their true form, encompassing what they were going through during that time and what was meaningful and personal to them. Songs like Right Back at It Again and End of Me showed that they could still deliver hooks even while fighting for their independence. This cemented A Day to Remember as not just scene favorites, but survivors. And that's a big deal, remember, because a lot of bands during this time or leading up to this time, the late early 2000s, like 2010s, we saw a lot of bands who had struggled through all of the touring, the Warped Tour, the not getting paid well, the label issues, and even the scene kind of like dying off a little bit, right? So like success got really funky for a lot of people. This is when a lot of bands started breaking up. And a lot of them have come back, thankfully, but they didn't seem to intend to come back. And it left a lot of fans feeling like they were losing like massive parts of themselves. And a lot of times it came out of these issues that were happening either internally or more of the business side of it all, which was really confusing, right, for fandoms at the height of the internet too, when we're all connected and everything was very public and we like there was a lot going on. And so to see a band fight through that, push through that, and stick it out, that was a big deal during that time. And I'm sure people who are like mega A Day to Remember fans are really appreciative of that and have a lot to share on that. I'm not, that wasn't me, so I can't really share that experience directly, but I'm sure that that does exist. So if that was you, please comment it, share it, because I want to know what that was like, especially looking back and seeing in these other fandom groups with these other bands, all the things that happened. End of Me is one of my favorite songs from A Day to Remember. I really like it. It's very special. And so we're going to dig into those lyrics. I took some time away for understanding of what brought us here today. Oh, you'll be the end of me. I'm never happy like we were happy. I'm never sad like we were sad. Oh, you'll be the end of me. You know me all too well, and I can't suppress the memories. You're gone, and I can tell that I've lost more than you'll ever see. Don't say that it's not fair, that you're not the person you want to be, because oh, you'll be the end of me. I know I wasn't perfect, but I kept trying till I forgot why I stayed. Oh, you'll be the end of me. Yeah, we lost all meaning. We lost the magic. So good luck to you on your way. Oh, you'll be the end of me. You know me all too well, and I can't suppress the memories. You're gone, and I can tell that I've lost more than you'll ever see. Don't say that it's not fair, that you're not the person you want to be, because oh, you'll be the end of me. I get it. No, I get it. Gave more than I took back. Oh, well. I get it. No, I get it. I can't help those who don't want to be helped. You know me all too well, and I can't suppress the memories. You're gone, and I can tell that I've lost more than you'll ever see. Don't say that it's not fair, that you're not the person you want to be, because oh, you'll be the end of me. You'll be the end of me. 3 years later, we got Bad Vibrations. So in 2016. And this album actually debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200. So this was the highest charting record ever for this band. This is where songs like Paranoia and We Got This mix those heavy breakdowns that they were known for with anthems that were made to be shouted back by thousands of fans. So they were keeping their momentum going forward, and they were kind of in like a celebratory lap, right? Some of the lawsuit stuff had been completed, and this was a way to really come back to their roots, but then also sort of experiment with a bigger sound into the mid 2010s. A Day to Remember never stayed in one lane. So by the time You're Welcome dropped in 2021, the sound leaned more toward pop punk and even mainstream rock. So they kind of veered a little bit more into those anthems, the melodies, like the radio friendliness, like a different sound. It wasn't their most universally loved record, especially following that big one, which tends to happen. But it did show that they were still evolving almost 20 years in, which is wild to think about, right? Into their career. They were evolving, they were trying new things, and most of their fans stuck around and connected to it. But then came 2025, and out of nowhere, A Day to Remember released, through a surprise, Big Ol' Album Volume 1. At first, it was physical only, so fans had to hunt down the CDs and the vinyl copies, but then it hit streaming a month later. So, kind of a reverse from what we're seeing and less of a buildup. It was sort of this like, hey, surprise, here it is. This featured songs like Miracle, Feedback, and LeBron, and it marked a new era and a very new and different sound. So, what you got from You're Welcome was like a slight change in direction versus Big Ol' Album Volume 1 is very different. I remember, I don't remember the day that it was released, but I do remember on April Fool's, and I think that the first song had already maybe come out. And April 1st, for April Fool's Day, Jeremy or the band posted, it was Jeremy's face, but it was like this fake headline that said that Jeremy was releasing like an all country album, or A Day to Remember is releasing a country album. And the first song that I heard sounded a little like country, like bro country, pop country, right? A little bit, not so much where it was like obviously that, but kind of that sort of rock country sound that's very similar in the way that it's like on the radio, songs all kind of sound the same, but even the voice. And I remember whenever I heard that song, because I think I heard it before April 1st, and I saw that headline, I was like, okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense. I didn't understand it was an April Fool's joke, which is interesting. But I heard that song, and I remember just like, I cringe at country music. I don't like it. And living in Nashville, it's everywhere. And so I was kind of like, oh, what is this? Like to my husband, because he was controlling the streaming or whatever we were listening to. He was like, oh, it's A Day to Remember. I'm like, what? This is? Once I listened to the full album, it's interesting because some songs are very catchy, very catchy. Even songs I kind of was like, I don't think I like this. The more I listen to it, it's like, well, now I know every lyric to it. I can sing along to it because it is very catchy. It has that formula to it, which is important for streaming success, commercial use, whatever it may be. There are some songs that do still have a little bit of like that heaviness to them. So there's like still a little trace of that original sound and that sound that I like so much in the older songs that I'm drawn to, but it's different and it's interesting. And I'm curious what it will be next and like how that will continue to evolve. I'm very curious about the show because not only did they release this album, they also very quickly followed it up with an announcement of the Maximum Fun Tour, which is their tour with Yellowcard, and they're getting support from State Champs and the Wonder Years. So the show I'm going to will be State Champs, Yellowcard, and A Day to Remember with another smaller opener. So a pretty big tour. And I'm interested. I don't know how I'm going to feel about it. Like even State Champs, they're a little bit more poppy as well. We saw them on the emo cruise. So I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be like. And I'm very excited to recap it and come back and share. Looking at them playing when we were young, it was heavy. There was energy. And I mean, The Downfall of Us All was the first song, right? Because they played that album all the way through. And that drop was so good and so strong. I'm curious if the new album will be better live because their energy will be behind it. I think it will. That's my expectation because they're really good. Their performance was incredible when we were young, in my opinion. If you saw them in the past and you have a different opinion about that based on maybe how they performed earlier in their career, I'd love to hear that too. I don't have that experience to pull from, but from my experience, I do have. The sound was good, the energy was good, the crowd was good. So it is going to be interesting to see how that changes. It's also going to be interesting seeing a show in Canada, in Toronto, basically the US, but on the Canada side. And if that's different. So I'm very curious about it. I know Yellow Card, I will be able to sing every song, dance, have the best time. A Day to Remember, I know most of the songs, and I'm sure they'll play all the songs I love. They're all some of the biggest hits, but I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be like. So I'm excited. And I think at the end of the day, the surprise release, the tour, the pretty big tour, the change in sound and just going for it, like it shows fans that they're going to keep making music. They're continuing to evolve. They're taking risks. Will they go back to their earlier sound? Will they morph into a completely different sound? No one knows, but at least they're still doing it and still trying. And I appreciate that with bands that have had such big albums and have had such massive success in the past, like to see them still try something new and keep changing a bit and keep creating. I think there's a lot of fun energy behind that, and as fans it's always exciting to see some of that, even if you don't necessarily love what has newly been put out or the direction it's going. You can choose to still appreciate the growth and how the band is still doing it, which we don't get from all of the bands that we like and love as much. So going into the fans and how that has shifted and just that connection to the band. This band, again, has stayed together and they've gone through some pretty rough times, but they've stuck it out. And a big part of that is because of their fans and that connection. One fan did a great job describing this online on a post and said they basically created a genre that spawned a ton of copycats. They did. They had created a good sound and they really hit it hard and became an inspiration to other bands at that time. Another said, I can share A Day to Remember with my mom and my pop punk friends who love breakdowns. That's how magical this band is. Versatile. A lot of people can appreciate it. The energy is good. Like if you like beats, if you like music, like a lot of their songs you can't not enjoy because of how they're created. They have that perfect formula. Very easy to listen to, easy to dance to, easy to enjoy. Jeremy McKinnon has also tried to create a balance on stage. He once said his biggest inspiration was watching bands like Less Than Jake. So that was his inspiration. They created a great atmosphere, and I wanted to combine all the amazing things I'd loved over the years. So, again, blending the heaviness with accessibility, palatability is why they are such a gateway band for many fans to go between this kind of more emo, hardcore, pop punk, pop, mainstream rock space. So, recapping the band members, current and past, we have Jeremy McKinnon. As I mentioned, he is the lead vocalist. He's been kind of there since early on, not the very beginning, but very much towards the beginning, has been mostly the songwriter creative engine kind of behind the band. He was raised in Ocala, and his entry began with a local ska band called All for Nothing, which was very much high school rebellion and songwriting. That was his entry point, and then enjoyed his entry into A Day to Remember. He's also produced music for different bands, including The Ghost Inside, Neck Deep, and Wage War, which broadened his own creative reach. I think he's also done some songwriting for other bands. And he names Millencolin as a major musical influence, along with concert inspirations like the Flaming Lips and Rammstein, also Less Than Jake, as we mentioned earlier. We have Tom Denny, who was the co-founder and guitarist on the first three albums. He credited Nirvana as his major influence and believed that if it wasn't for Nirvana, he wouldn't be in music at all. He did leave the band in 2009 to focus on family and his own recording studio, but he did continue writing with them. So still kind of stayed part of the band, even if he wasn't necessarily performing or playing guitar for the band. We have the bassist Josh Woodard. He was the founding bassist. He actually left in October 2021, so stuck around for the majority of their career. So Big Ol' Album number volume one was the first without him as a founder. And then we have, after Denny's departure, Kevin Scaff joined as lead guitarist, and he's kind of stuck it out. We have rhythm guitarist Neil Westfall, Alex Shellnut on drums, and Bobby Ling. He is currently the bassist. There's no current bassist. It's a little unclear, but he is from Fit for a King, and he was in the studio with the band and was seen on social media with the band in 2023. So probably writing as part of the band for Big Ol' Album volume number one. But he also appears to be on tour with them. And I double checked his Instagram. He has a post with the sign behind him as if he is playing on the tour. So he is the bassist currently, but not a lot of like clear information on whether that is permanent or not. So a few changes in the band members, a lot of consistency, but again, technically the band is never broken up, and that is a big deal. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Come back next week as we recap the tour with A Day to Remember and Yellow Card. Some of these changes, what is it going to look like on the stage? How is it going to feel? I will share all of that. And then we will take our shift to Sleep Token, because that is my next show in a couple of weeks, and cover that hot topic. Are they emo? Are they not? They have blown up in a lot of different spaces. Interesting fandom, right? We're going to talk about it and dig into that band and figure out where they fit in our space. And then we'll go back to the roots and get back into some of the emo bands that we love and appreciate and want to dive into a little bit more. There's so many I've been dying to continue learning about as I've been putting all these together and like hearing inspirations in other bands. So we will be going into more of the emo roots once again. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, share it with a friend, maybe leave a review. Makes a big difference. And if there's something that you want to share, if you want to come on the podcast, as always, you are welcome. I would love to have you on. I'm not the leader here. I'm just a student. I'm learning and sharing what I learn. And if you have a lot to share, I would love to hear it. So my email is in the show notes. Please reach out to me and we'll get you on.